You know, something huge is happening in the world of business. The way companies talk about their performance and their value is fundamentally changing. And it's all because of two new standards, IFRS S1 and S2. We're talking about a whole new language for global business. And in this explainer, we're going to get you fluent. For the longest time, a company's financial report only told you part of its story. But let's be real, we all know now that things like sustainability and climate change aren't just feel-good side projects. They are core financial issues. The old way of reporting just wasn't cutting it anymore. A major rewrite was overdue. So you might be asking, why did we even need this revolution? What was the big problem that these new standards were built to solve? Well, it really all boils down to one incredibly frustrating question. And honestly, until very recently, the short answer was, you couldn't. Not in any meaningful way, at least. Just imagine trying to compare two companies where one reports its profits in dollars and the other reports in, I don't know, seashells. That's pretty much the chaos we had with sustainability reporting. And here's why it was so messy. Investors were drowning in what everyone calls the alphabet soup of reporting. You had GRI, TCFD, SASB, all these different voluntary frameworks. Now, they were all created with good intentions, but together, they created a super confusing and inconsistent mess. It was a patchwork quilt when what the world needed was a single, standard blueprint. So, to clean up this mess, the IFRS Foundation stepped in. Now, these are the same people who oversee global accounting standards, so they know a thing or two about creating rules everyone can follow. They set up the International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB, with one clear mission: create a single, consistent, global baseline, a common language for sustainability that everyone can understand and build upon. And on June 26, 2023, they delivered. We got two landmark standards. IFRS S1 is the foundation, kind of the main rulebook for how to report on sustainability stuff in general. Then you have IFRS S2, which zooms in on what is arguably the most pressing issue for everyone right now: climate. Together, these two are the absolute core of this new global language. All right, so if we're learning a new language, the first thing we need to do is learn the vocabulary, right? And in this language, the two most important words you're going to hear over and over again are risks and opportunities. Everything is seen through that lens. Now, pay close attention to the definition here because this is absolutely key. This isn't about abstract, save the planet ideas. It's about very real, tangible risks and opportunities that you could reasonably expect to hit a company's bottom line. Its cash flow, its ability to get a loan, its cost of capital. It's all about financial impact. So, IFRS S2 gets really specific when it comes to climate, and it splits the risk into two main buckets. First, you have transition risks. Think of these as the risks that come from us shifting to a green economy. Things like new carbon taxes, electric vehicles making gas cars obsolete, or customers demanding sustainable products. Then you have the physical risks. These are the things we see on the news every night, the direct hits from floods, wildfires, and superstorms on a company's factories and supply chains. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. The standards are really clear that companies have to give equal attention to the upside. We're talking about opportunities. This could be anything from creating new, super efficient technologies to getting access to green bonds, or even capturing brand new markets as the world goes low carbon. Okay, so we've got our basic vocabulary down, risks and opportunities. Now we need the grammar. We need the rule that helps us decide which information is actually important enough to include in the report. And in the world of accounting and disclosure, that rule is called materiality. I mean, think about it. A huge company could report on hundreds and hundreds of different sustainability metrics, but which ones actually matter? Which pieces of information are going to make an investor say, okay, that changes how I see this company? That's exactly what the materiality filter is designed to figure out. The focus here is laser sharp. It's all about the primary users of these reports: investors, lenders, creditors, the people putting money on the line. And the test for what's material is pretty simple. You just ask, if we left this piece of information out, or got it wrong, could it realistically influence their decision to invest, lend, or not? If the answer is yes, then it's material, and you've got to disclose it. Now, this is where things get a little nuanced, and it's a really important point. The IFRS standards, or global baseline, use what's called single materiality. That means the focus is on how the world and sustainability issues affect the company's value, an outside-in view. But the European Union has its own rules, and they use double materiality. This means companies have to report on that, plus their own impact on the world, on people on the planet. So it's both outside in and inside out. It's a key difference to be aware of. And this isn't just a theoretical difference. The EU is already rolling out its comprehensive rules. You can see how they're phasing in reporting, with some companies having to comply for their 2024 financial year. So for any global company that does business in Europe, understanding this double materiality approach is absolutely critical. You might have to speak both dialects of this new language. So we have the vocabulary, risks and opportunities. We've got the grammar, materiality. So how do we actually put it all together and build the sentences? How is all of this information actually structured in a report? Well, here's the good news. The ISSB didn't just invent a whole new system out of thin air. They very wisely built it on a foundation that many companies already know and use, the CCFD, or the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. So for thousands of companies, this structure is going to feel very familiar, which is a huge relief. The entire thing is built on 4 core pillars. First, governance. The simple question here is who's in charge of this stuff at the company? Second, strategy. How does all this sustainability stuff actually affect the business plan for the future? Third, risk management. How does the company spot these risks, figure out how big they are, and then manage them? And finally, metrics and targets. This is where the rubber meets the road. Show us the data and tell us what your goals are. It's a really logical flow that tells a complete story. So, why is all of this so urgent right now? Why are we talking about it? Well, it's because this new language isn't just some proposal in a boardroom. It's being adopted right now as the new global standard. And let's be super clear, this is not another nice-to-do voluntary framework. Nope. It's being backed by IOSCO. That's the global organization of all the world's stock market regulators. And countries are now moving to make these standards mandatory law. This is the final step that takes us from that messy alphabet soup to a single, common language for all the world's capital markets. And this isn't happening 10 years from now. Look at this. Turkey has already adopted the standards, starting with 2024 reporting. Hong Kong is phasing them in beginning in 2025. And you've got major economies from Nigeria to the UK that have already committed to getting this done. This is happening, and the momentum is building incredibly fast. All right, let's bring it all home. What are the big things you need to remember? First, a single global language for sustainability reporting is finally here. Second, it's all about connecting sustainability directly to financial value for investors. Third, it's built on that familiar 4-pillar structure from the TCFD. And finally, becoming fluent in this new language is no longer optional. It's becoming essential for doing business. Which really brings us to the final critical question I want to leave you with. This is about so much more than just checking a compliance box. It's about being able to strategically communicate your company's value, your risks, and your opportunities in the language that the entire financial world is now starting to speak. So the only real question left is your organization ready for the conversation?